Hi there, my name is Tim Schneider. I'm the man behind mrsartorial.com, and this is the first episode of a video series that I'm calling The Blueprint. This first episode is going to be about suits. Basically, The Blueprint is going to be a video series that is designed to teach the average man all about menswear fundamentals. This episode is a rough cut, so I'm not expecting everything to be perfect. I'm just going to let it run, and I'm expecting that there's going to be some mistakes and some things that I get criticized for, and I'm looking forward to all the feedback that everybody who watches this can provide for me. So if you think that there's anything missing, or if I go on for any subject too long, please do let me know, because I want to try and do the best job possible when I go through and make another cut of it. So just getting started, here's the overview of what I have planned for us. We're going to start with history, then we're going to talk about construction of suits and all the details. We're going to go on about fabric, and then I'm going to talk about something special, just little differences that you'll find in certain suits that you look at. I also want to talk about getting the perfect fit, and then I'm going to talk about the standards, what's sort of the norm for suits that people wear on a day-to-day basis. And so, just starting off with the history, the idea of a suit goes back as far as 400 years or so in some form or another. Not necessarily the suits that we know today, but just the idea of wearing matching pants and trousers, matching pants and jackets, often with a vest. Suits as we know them now, which are called lounge suits, are much more recent. They're from the mid to late 19th century. And they really became prevalent after World War I, when all the soldiers came back. It became the standard business wear, and it trickled down from sort of the higher class to something that it was considered every respectable man should wear. Something interesting I found when I was doing research for the history is that suits were worn almost exclusively outdoors until the 1960s. That's because in 1960s JFK became president and he didn't wear a hat with his suits. So I found it really interesting that hat was basically considered part of the uniform, where it's not considered so at all anymore. Throughout the 20th century, various details of suits have changed. Lapels have gone slim to wide, relaxed cuts to trim cuts, and so on. Lots of different variations have appeared and disappeared. The current trend in suits is towards slimmer cut two-button suits with a natural shoulder that's a little bit less padded, and flat front trousers with no cuff on the bottom. Moving on to the next slide, I just want to talk about the different parts of the suit. So starting at the top, you have the collar of the suit, which goes around the back here. An extension of that is the lapel, and I'm going to be talking about different types of lapels in a little bit. Down in the V here, this is the gorge, and I'm going to be talking about why that's important as well. 4 is the breast pocket up here, where your pocket square or your handkerchief goes. 5 is the waist button, and it's important to note that every suit has a waist button, which is the dominant button to be done up. That's a good way to remember which button you should be doing up. So, for example, in this 3-button suit, the dominant button you're going to do up is the waist button in the center here, and then you can optionally put button up the top button. And then, of course, on every suit, if there is a bottom button, you leave it undone, as is tradition. If it's a 2-button suit, you're going to be doing up the waist button, which is the top button. And if it's a 1-button suit, you're just going to be doing up the only button that's there. So pretty simple. Moving on, you got your jacket pockets, front jacket pockets here. You have your sleeve buttons, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about those in the future. And then 8, which is actually on the back, are the vents, and we'll also be talking about those coming up. Moving on to the next slide here, I just want to talk about different levels of construction quality for suits. Basically, the 3 different overall quality levels would be a fused construction, a full canvas construction, and then a half canvas, which lies in the middle of the two. Essentially, every single suit has 2 pieces of outer fabric, which is what you see, and then there's a 3rd piece of inner fabric, or an interlining, that helps to keep the shape of the suit. So a fused garment is the most common, and it's the least expensive to construct. Basically, an inner lining is glued to the outside fabric, making it stiff. These linings don't really react as well to dry cleaning repeated dry cleaning as canvas linings do, and occasionally they bubble. However, the quality of fused linings has really increased recently, so they don't have the problems that they once had. In my personal experience, I find that fused construction tends to feel a little bit stiffer, and canvas tends to feel a little bit more relaxed. So that's one other difference. The fully canvassed garment is the highest quality construction, and it's when a horsehair canvas lining between the outer shell is sewn into the garment, allowing it to have better drape and comfort than a fused garment. And so because it's stitched in, it has a little bit more room to move, a little bit more slack basically, so it can move around, and just lends itself to better comfort and better form fit over the long term. Then the third option below is the half canvas, and the half canvas is a compromise between the fused construction and the full canvas. The half canvas is canvassed through the top half of the jacket, and then fused in the bottom half of the jacket, where the benefits of canvassing are less noticeable. And if you want to tell if a garment is full canvas or if it's fused, or if it's half canvas or if it's fused, what you can do is what's called the pinch test, where you just put your thumb and forefinger in between the fabric, in between the two top buttons of the jacket, or whether it be 3-button or 2-button. And you can rub, and if you can feel a third piece of fabric moving around in there, that means that it's a canvassed garment. One other quality indicator that you can look at is the stitching, and hand stitching versus machine stitching. You won't find a lot of suit jackets off the rack that have a lot of hand stitching done on them, but it's important to know the difference. The machine stitching creates a very secure stitch, but the hand stitching tends to have a little bit more give to it, helping to create a garment that's got a bit of slack, so it again is sort of a comfort thing. It just feels a little bit more free on your body. Other than that, the machine stitching is very secure, does an excellent job, but it's just a little bit more mechanical, so it doesn't have that slack to it. Another point of quality I wanted to quickly mention is the jacket lining. And the point of a good lining is to absorb your perspiration and not retain your body odor. You'll see a lot of different fabrics used for linings, polyester, typically on the lower end, or acetates or what have you. Generally, Cupro, or also called Bemberg, is considered the best lining for your jackets, and that's because it doesn't retain odors, and it does an excellent job of dissipating moisture. So it's just a little quality detail for you to notice is what your jacket lining is actually made out of. Moving on to the next slide. I just want to talk about different types of lapels. This is pretty basic information, so if you already know a lot about suits, you're not going to probably learn too much here. But the notch lapel, the peak lapel, and the shawl lapel are three common types of lapels. The notch lapel is the most common, and it's widely accepted as just sort of a standard business lapel. And that's when it's just got a little notch in here, so it's very easy to recognize. The peak lapel is a little bit less common than the notch lapel, and it's considered a little bit more rakish because it's got a little bit more dynamic look to it. So you'll see that it's just got the peaks here. And then the third lapel I'm going to talk about is the shawl lapel, and it's the least common that you'll see right now, and it's associated with formal wear because a lot of tuxedos over the last several years have used the shawl lapel. It's starting to make a comeback, and right now it would be considered definitely the most fashionable, the most cutting edge for you to wear on a regular jacket, because it's just so unusual that not a lot of people are wearing it on their regular jackets, only wearing it for formal wear. Other styles do exist, but aren't very common. For example, you can see the Nehru or Mandarin collars that were popularized by the Beatles. And so there are some different variations out there, but these three are the most common when it comes to lapels. Moving on to the next slide. I just want to quickly talk about vents. For vents, there are generally 3 options. For the most part, you aren't going to get a lot of choice when you're buying off the rack. You know, the same suit's not going to be offered in 3 different types of vents, but different manufacturers tend to have proclivity for one or the other. The first option I'm going to show off here is a side vent, where it's got 2 slits in the back of the jacket, and the side vent is considered traditionally British and facilitates sitting down very easily, and it also facilitates access to your pockets. The second option I want to talk about is the center vent, and this vent is considered more American, and it was really predominant in Brooks Brothers suits throughout the company's history. So that's really associated with the American cut. It facilitates sitting down quite easily, but it doesn't offer the best pocket access because the vent's in the center, and so you have to sort of jam your hands in past the fabric to get to your pockets. And then the third option is ventless, and it's mostly associated with formal wear. It doesn't offer the best access to pockets, and obviously because there's no vents to part when you sit down, it sort of wrinkles the back end of your suit here when you're sitting down. But it was really advocated by Armani throughout the 80s, and so it's become associated with Italian suits in that manner. So moving on to the next slide here, I wanted to talk about shoulders. There are 2 basic categories of suit shoulder that you're going to see. There's the padded shoulder and the natural shoulder. When you're buying a new suit, it's really important to consider the shoulder on it. Unlike the type of vent that a suit has, the type of shoulder that your jacket has should be a deal breaker on the purchase of your suit, and I'm going to explain why. So the first option, as I said, is the padded shoulder. There's different amounts of padding in suits with the padded shoulder, but they're all designed to give the sloped shoulder a little bit more presence. So if your shoulders slope down, this will keep your shoulder line nice and straight. They were popularized during the age of power suits because they artificially build up a broad V shape into men, but they've become a lot less popular lately, and the natural shoulder has become the most popular on most suits. The natural shoulder still has a little bit of padding. You will occasionally see suits that have no padding, but it's not for everybody, putting it politely. So the natural shoulder is designed to be shaped to have a very natural look for it. Lets your shoulders do most of the work, and as I said, it is the most common right now and can be worn by a large variety of guys. The benefit of the natural shoulder is that if you've already got pretty stacked shoulders, or if you've got a pretty strong shoulder, wearing a padded shoulder can look a little bit awkward, where the natural shoulder really evens everything out and looks quite nice. The third option, which I wanted to talk about, and I put a picture here just to show you what it really is the roped shoulder, shown here. The roped shoulder is a very traditional tailored style. It creates a rim or a cap on the shoulder. You won't see it very often anymore, although it's used by the many prestigious labels and also those who want to imitate them. And you can always tell because it's got the roping that creates that ridge here.